for me, it's only happening when I get there.
Yeah.
From what the person before me plays, how do I feel the vibe, the last track the person before me is gonna play, you know, and even though I might feel I need to change it, I need to follow it, and sometimes I follow and I don't think it's a good idea, so sometimes I just change. I think the time, the sound system, the mood, even if you play twice in the same club, 2 nights in a row, I would do something very different. And when you're playing at 12 o'clock, you don't play the same stuff then 3 o'clock in the morning or at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You know, when I start a set in Berlin at 8 in the morning, my set will be very different.
Right.
Because I know these guys have been dancing for 8 hours. So I don't need to bang it to drive them crazy. They just need something a bit, you know, trippier and stuff like that. So I think everything, you need to take everything, you know, in consideration to do a set.
Johnny Fontana, Half Amazing TV, back with another video. I got a special guest in the building, my man Bilal, holding it down. What's going on, brother?
Brother Johnny, thank you for so much for having me on. Such an honor. I've followed your stuff since over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think that we're here. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you. So, well, first of all, we're basically going to be critiquing your mix, right? So obviously this is just an introduction of who you are, what you've been doing, what you've been up to, just, you know, to give the folks a little bit of a background of you know, who you are.
So my name is Bilal, and actually my DJ name is also Bilal. I just write it BLVL. And I am an avid, you know, nightlife goer, nightlife fanatic, and I just breathe and live nightlife, you know, for the culture, for the music, more specifically house and techno. Obviously, there's a wide range of nightlife, but you know, I grew born and raised in Montreal, Canada, and you know, I started my journey into, you know, DJing and music, you know, when I started going to the nightclubs there in Montreal and, you know, noticing, you know, that I enjoyed the, you know, the music that was played more than, you know, getting wasted and just, you know, going there for the flashy looks. I really was I found myself passionate. I'm like, you know what, let me just give it a try. Let me give it a twirl, the knobs and everything. And so that went well, and I, you know, started as a, you know, bedroom DJ. I watching your videos, like I bet many of us, you know, bedroom DJs is starting off practicing at home. And I'm gonna fast forward a bit here, but you know, summer 2020 kicks in with COVID. Find myself, you know, I had that mentality where I was waiting for someone to book me at their event, waiting for, I don't know, promoter, looking for a DJ or whatever. COVID hit, all the clubs shut down, so all the bars shut down. And so on that note, I just went, you know, screw it. Through a couple my own outdoor parties, you know, booked my own lineups, did my own promotions. Even though it's, you know, COVID, I promoted it very privately. There was still, you know, an amount of promotion to be had. Did the, you know, the branding, created even a music collective, you know, we're about 3 DJs, 1 musician in there, producer. So just giving you some background as to, you know, what I've been up to. So I guess DJ and event planner in Montreal, based from Montreal, Canada. Not anymore based, actually. That's where we go into the Panama stuff. So thankfully, you know, Panama has arisen as a new destination for me, a new home, Central America. You know, long story short as well, let's put it this way, you know, it's a good hub for, you know, not only, you know, a great community of entrepreneurs from all over the world, but also, you know, great weather, great people, great language, and slowly but surely, you know, learning about the culture here in terms of nightlife. But absolutely a great destination so far. Business wise, you know, even if you want to build a family, great stable area, safe area, country, great people.
The standard that I'm going to critique you on obviously is a little different than what I did for Dan, right? Dan was my first one, and he was just getting started into DJing. But obviously for you, you know, we've been working together, you had your parties, so you've sort of progressed a little faster than the average DJ, right? In terms of being able to create your own events, and also, I would say, master the art of organizing your folders, right? So that means I have higher standards for you, right? So the criteria that I'm going to critique you on are based on just the standard essence, right, of DJ. So number one is programming, right? Song selection, just the overall big picture of the quality of music and how everything flows together, right? Big picture. Then you go into pairability, right? How the music pairs along with vision, with the time, with the venue, with the demographic. All right, so you set the scene for us. So I'm basically looking to say, okay, does that music, does the sound overall fit the description and your vision that you set forth? Transition, right? Basically, how the music intertwines between one to another. How's the energy? Are there a lot of dips? Are there a lot of highs? Or are there a lot of lows? Or is everything sort of linear? And it's just, is there a nice flow and does it make sense, right? Now we're going to the technical aspect because previous were more of the soft skills, right? Now the actual mixing, all right? How are you're using your EQs, your volumes? Again, not so much the transition of going from one song to another, but in terms of how you are applying these techniques, right?
Yep.
What kind of transitions in terms of abrupt are the long mixes, and also are you stabilizing the flow throughout the transition? And then now we have longevity, all right? Longevity in terms of how long can you last, right? Because again, you get excited, you're passionate, and then, you know, your first, 15, 20 minutes can be sort of like that boost, right? Of like, all right, I got this. And then all of a sudden, many of us, we start to sort of dwindle down just because we've lost control over the crowd. We've lost control over that initial spike of energy, right? And sometimes we don't know where we're going because we had, let's say, in our minds, particular idea and song set up, and then now all of a sudden we're lost, right? So I want to see how long you can go based on the of that mix. And finally, memorability, right? It's subjective in terms of what we're listening to, who listens to it, but again, based on the totality of your vision and all things considered, is it a memorable mix, right? Is it something that is going to enhance my moment, or is it going to be just in a moment, So in terms of, am I going to be like, man, like that was a pretty good mix? So if I'm in a particular moment, am I going to go to that mix, right? Or the songs, again, part of that programming, are they memorable? Are there something, between catchy or something that can really put me in that mood and really say, hey, listen, you know what? That was a great, great, great mix. So those are the criterias. And I'm actually looking forward to it because, I haven't heard you in a while. And I know that, it's been a year. So you definitely impressed me with your music organization. So I'm curious. There's one thing that I'm actually curious about is, have you gotten a little too, pardon my French, let me speak Italian, anal about your organization, right? And it will show, maybe not to other people, but because I sort of understand the the nuances, I'll be able to tell whether or not you've become a little too specific in your organization, because I know that you can be very to to an extreme level of organization. So, but again, it shouldn't affect the overall impact of the mix itself. But without further ado, do you have any links? Do you have any places where we can find you?
Yeah, no, I'll say find me. I'll send you my SoundCloud, but BLVL, if you just write it on SoundCloud, BLVL. Probably second in line, there's another artist by the name of BLVL as well, but just call me Bilal. You'll find me posting mixes on there. On my SoundCloud, there's a link to my music collective showing the events I've done in Montreal, beautiful experiences we're able to throw. Shout out New Wave. New Wave is the name. New Wave, NU Wave, based out of Montreal. Yeah, and I was just gonna say, guys, enjoy, and Johnny, you do your thing as usual.
Definitely, brother. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to you doing big things in Panama as well. And I also look forward to listening to more of your mixes. So without further ado, Bilal, appreciate you coming on, brother. And we'll see you next time.
Peace out. Thank you very much, Johnny.
All right. So now we are in the studio. All right, so now let's go ahead and set up this mix, right? As you know, when it's always important to set up the mix, especially if you are not in front of a crowd, right? You want to have that visual perspective into what it is that you're trying to achieve when delivering this message we call DJing, right? So Bilal says it's inspired by his departure from Montreal to Panama, right? As we discussed earlier, I recorded a warm, groovy techie set. Now, it's meant to be played after a takeover around sunset time, transitioning into peak time. The venue is outdoors, bar type, not too classy, but with the dance floor in the middle centerpiece, unlike some other places where it's an afterthought. And the bar is outdoors on the beach so that the sunset can be seen clearly. Okay, it's a warm and beautiful weather, Latin country. So again, setting the scene. It's the bar type venue is outdoors where you can see the sunset, beautiful weather. So we got a Latin vibe going on now. So now, let's get into it. All right, so we're starting off.
Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs begin to take hold.
Again, programming, right? And what I'll do, I'll set, the numbers from a scale from 1 to 10, right? And I would like down below in the comment section, right? Put your own critiques, right? The programming, playability, the transition, the mixing, the memorability. I want you to give a score, right? I'll give myself a final score, and then we'll talk to that again. So he's going in. We'll move it forward a little bit. Not sure if he's bringing something else in or not. He sounds like he's mixing something, or it just may be the track. Alright, we're 3 minutes in, 3:30. The first song. I want to refrain from providing my opinion until the end, right? Just because I want to do this mix as much justice as possible. All right, let's see. It looks like he's getting into something now. Sounds like he moved into something else, which is good now. All right. So the mixing is nice now. All right, just the technical aspect. Nice. Transition is smooth, right? Not up and down, not funky, wacky, crazy. Just nice and smooth. Alright, so you got that Miami vibe, sort of. He's in Panama now. So yes, he's got that groove, that cool vibe going, right? I could see more of this than the one before. The one before was kind of like darky, but we moved it to something nice, right? It's a little bit more refreshing. Still serious, but we're good. So I'm gonna move it up a little bit more.
Antídoto está acá. Y el único bien que no se compra es el bien superior, la vida. No puedes decir con una tarjeta en un supermercado. Cuando es al revés, tenés que vivir como pensás.
Sounds like you're moving into something else now. Transition is nice, going from one so far. Mixing, right? You went from the breakdown to this new one, so it's nice. Volume seems to be on point, EQ, no problem. So this is the third track now. So now, my only concern, and I hope it's not going to be for the foreseeable future, but he seems to have a particular texture that he's working with, right? So for the past 3 songs, including this one, sounds to have like a similar sound to it, right? With the breakdown with the vocals, the one before it breakdown with the vocals, right? So I don't know if it's the same producer, but just something to be careful, right? Just think of, but again, nothing to really harp on. But, so hopefully it transitions out of that again. Sounds like he's got something coming in. And he seems to be doing some wrong mixing, which is good, right? So I give him a lot of credit for the wrong mixing, because it sounds like he's adding things into it. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the type of music where it allows you for you to do these long transitions rather. So you got something coming in. see what we got going on. Next track. Is it gonna pop up too hard, or is it gonna stay and get a nice groove in there? Let's see. Nice, very nice, right? Kept it steady, all right? It's a little different, right? He looks like he's working looks like he's working his way up, which is nice. Maybe it's like an opening set, possibly, right? And I'm gonna tell you something. From when we first started a year ago, totally like night and day. I'm really proud of you, brother. Really proud of you. Good, nice. Nice. Good stuff. Good job. Nice. Nice. Alright, then move it up.
La nobleza del quebracho, todo es tú y las.
Alright, so now it sounds like he's bringing it up a little bit, right? So this is close to peak hour, I would say. So let's see where he takes it from here now, right? The trajectory so far seems to be promising. Got something coming in. Man, this is like some ASMR. I love when especially like Latin, Afro, percussive beats are mixing in together. I love like that long mix, man. I could just listen to it and make me go to sleep. I love just the mixing. Okay, I see he likes his breakdowns.
Soy el fuego que
He dipped down a little bit, but it's okay though. Right? He dipped down a little bit. Again, maybe because it's one of those things where you tease them with something, right? But you don't want to, because of the setting, you don't want to keep it too high. You want to bring it down. Again, I'm explaining these are some of the aspects that you may have to think about, right? When you're playing, especially at a lounge, let me explain to you. Let me bring it down a little bit. When you're playing at lounges, you have more flexibility where you can go one song this, because people aren't really paying attention, right? You have more the bar, and people are just really more chilling. So you have a little bit more to work with, okay? But it wasn't too drastic. There was a shift downward. I thought he was gonna continue that trajectory, but it's all right. Let's see what we got here. See what he got. coming in. I love that mixing. So he's doing a tremendous job in keeping stuff intact, right? He's like the perfect opener, right? For me, if I were to have someone open for me, or even at if I have a venue, if I have a nightclub, this right here. All right, so we're not gonna be too petty. We're gonna move it forward. Got something coming in. All right, so at this point, he's really keeping it level, right? I don't see too much. All right, he's moving up, he's coming back up now. We go from this one. So this is, I would say, peak hour stuff. It's a little heavy. seems like he's coming into something else new. So he's adding something else now. So now he ended. All right. So obviously you see that I didn't have a lot to criticize, right? So let's go ahead and go and give the numbers, right? Programming. I'm going to take a few points off. Well, first of all, I want to say, Bilal, like this set from when you first started is like absolutely a night and day. And I am pleasantly surprised. Not to say that I'm surprised that I don't think you had it in you, but I am pleasantly surprised to really hear you go from where you went, from where you came from to now. I mean, like this was almost, I would say, a perfect set, right? In terms of like just delivering, you know, great sound, you know, great music for the, you know, for that particular setting and for the particular atmosphere and whatever in your mind was going through. I think it was an absolute great set, right? So I want to applaud you for that, right? So let's get into the programming. I'm going to take a point off again because it's me critiquing. A lot of this stuff is subjective, but again, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have a lot more experience and I have a lot more bandwidth when it comes to music because of my various experiences and my exposure. So this may be the first time that you were exposed to that Latin group, having, you know, been around a whole lot of, you know, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, even when I was living in Miami, to a lot of the Colombians, Venezuelans, the Portuguese, Argentinians, the Cubans. I've been around a lot of Latin communities or various Latin communities to know and sort of like have a feel for that groove. And plus my family's from Haiti, so we share that Caribbean island sort of Latin vibe.
I looked at it as, if it wasn't for Miami, building me the way that we were built down here, meaning black, white, pink, purple, orange, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican, Venezuelan, Colombian, Honduran, Haitian. But with everybody that we grew up around in Miami, is what allowed me to step out the box and not worry about it, because I was raised around so much different music, right. Whether it was salsa, merengue, bachata, right. Bass music, hip-hop, right. Electronic music, cumbia, no, de todo un poco, right. ¿Me entiendes? Es una paella, papito, una paella es a gumbo.
Con todo.
So as far as programming is concerned, I would knock off a few points and give you a 7 out of 10. And here's why. 7, I would give you the high 7 just because of the fact that in today's market, right, that's a lot of people are looking for that. And especially depending on where you are, that can definitely fit, right, the scene, right, in terms of the music and everything that you went. But I'm gonna take off a couple points, and this is something that I'm gonna stress also. I feel that you have gotten so great with your music folder and your organization skills that you sort of limit yourself. And it's something that we can get to. It's one of those things where you can get so technical about getting the right music in the right folder that we miss out on the bigger picture, on the wider appeal, right? So, and I know what you were going for, but I feel though that you had more room to play with. Again, with the Latin community. If it was another community like the hipster crowd or whatever, I get it. But with the Latin community, you got to think about it, right? Everything is built on vocals, on instruments, on beauty, on excess, right? So you want to be able to diverse your range. And I think that you didn't do as much of a good job in diversifying that range. And I think also part of our jobs as DJs is to not get caught up in this smalling mentality, as Billy Corgan would say often. And part of our job is to expose people, right? So yes, we want to play these darker, these more like cooler sets, whatever. But a lot of these people don't understand that, right? So if you want to invite more people, you can get to that middle space where it's still good quality music, and you're not selling yourself short to the mainstream stuff, but at the same time you're allowing other people who haven't really heard that stuff to really commit to, you know, your journey, right? Clip one, go.
So that's why I get very argumentative with the indie class, because if you don't let those bands rise up to the mainstream, that's what you get. And you need that kid in Iowa to figure out at 14 or 12 or 17 that there is a Joy Division, you know, there is a Dead Mouse. That's critical to them changing their communities and bringing those ideas into their communities. If you get precocious and you only keep it, you know, here in New York or here in Seattle or whatever people do, that's counterintuitive to what alternative culture is for. Alternative culture is supposed to be subversive. If you're preaching to the same choir and it gets cooler and cooler and weirder and more obscure, what happens to that middle class that doesn't really know about that stuff, doesn't live in that world, doesn't know the cool kid in school, you know, and they end up buying that the mainstream is the alternative, because the mainstream is more than happy to willing to sell them copies.
You see what I'm saying to you? So I think, again, and as DJs nowadays, we get caught up in this, oh, I need to be, not necessarily you, but just by default, we all do that, right? Like, this is the cool, this is the thing, this is, you know, groovy tech. That's why everything is tech now, groovy, whatever. And we forget that our job is to sort of create that bandwidth. There is a time to play a set like that, but when you're outside, when you're outdoors, you want to open it up. So I'm gonna give you an example of what I would say, like, you know, of like an opening up, right? All right. So you had something similar, you know, in this, but you'll notice how this stuff opens up a little bit. Watch. Remember, because you're outside, you're by the right, and that's where experience comes in. Because I'm not faulting you, but this is where experience comes in, right? You want to be able to, like, remember, Latin folks, man, like, we want to hear them vocals, man. We want to hear that. We want to have that feeling inside, man. Like, we want to, right? It's not just beats, dude. It's Right, you got something like that. I'm gonna give you something else also. Something that's, you know, again, opening up that palette. Right, so you want to be able to open it up a little bit, and that's the thing. So for me, it's one of those things where, yeah, like I'm in that place, but I want to.
It was all about hugging and euphoria and celebration and joy, and you would go to these events and everybody was smiling and hugging each other, and then and suddenly the music got darker, and it was still good music, it was still very interesting music, but it wasn't joyful anymore. It was almost like people were ashamed of the fact that they had been innocent and happy a year before. And honestly, it kind of broke my heart.
I'm not saying your thing was too dark, but it was a little too. Well, we'll talk about that in the Memorability. But as far as the program is concerned, again, I give you a solid 7, but I take off some points just because I felt that you could have widened your palette, widened your range a little bit, give me a little bit more like. You know, because I felt that I was sort of like in this lull, which is good. And I think, again, we can get too much into that organization of the folders that we just stay and try to find the songs that match. And then we forget by default, okay, it's our fault. But again, being able to then open our lenses, right? So when we master here, it leaves our space open for this. Because then when we get too technical, when we worry too much about the technical, we lose sight of the actual softness, right? Of, hey, what are we doing in order to excite other people who may not necessarily be into that house, but want to introduce them, right? Want to get them in there, but also something that is going to be have a wide appeal to people. Clip 2, go.
You can read about the 1920s. There's always going to be a class that considers themselves detached and above. We don't muck around in general culture. But you go to anybody's wedding, they're dancing to the Bee Gees. They're dancing to celebrate good time. There's a reason that stuff transcends, because it has enough of a wide cultural impact that it endures. Okay? You don't go to a wedding and they're not dancing to Sonic Youth. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. They're not dancing to my music. They're not dancing to Hole. They're not dancing to 9 Inch Nails for the most part. Maybe.
They did at mine, but that's
okay. Okay, very good. God bless.
You see what I'm saying to you? So we got to think about, especially when you're playing Latin. If you were doing techno, we wouldn't be discussing this. But because you're talking about Latin, you're talking about outside. So Memorability. I'm gonna give you a solid. I hate to do it to you, but I'm gonna give you a 6, right? I'm gonna give you 6 only because you fell short. The tracks, yes, they're fine, they're great. And the thing is, you gave me 40 minutes and you didn't widen your palette, right? So let's say you started off with the sound that you had in the first half, and in the second half, or maybe even like towards the middle of the first half, you widen it and then you brought it back down, and you gave me a range, then I would have given you like a solid 9, right? Just off the bat, because of your mixing abilities, right? And everything flowing well. But because I felt like, dude, like I'm outside, the sun is setting, the wind is blowing, like people, like beautiful people. We're in Latin America. Like I want a little bit of, I want that feeling, man. I want that sexiness, right?
I'm in Dominican Republic, but I'm not in Casa Campo. I'm in Santo Domingo. And I see these two beautiful Dominican women dancing to Bob Sinclair's record, World Hold On.
Yo, Bob Sinclair had to be taking ecstasy right in that record.
Yeah. And these are tremendas mulatonas. I mean, gorgeous animals. I'm going, wow. And I'm thinking in my head, I know don't speak English. So I'm like, well, let me holler at them real quick and see what's up. So I talk to them and I say, hey, you like this record? It's like, oh, esta canción me encanta. Te dije, oh, yo, pipi. I said, ¿tú sabes lo que está diciendo? You know what they're saying? No. I said, shit, I need to get in this music right here.
So you started DJing?
No, I started rapping on them records.
Records for the DJs.
Started rapping them records before the DJs became artists.
Right.
So before they were looking at the Guettas or the Sinclairs or the Tiestos or the Afrojacks or the, you name it.
Right. For the campaign, yeah.
Because they really flipped their game around 2012 after we jumped on X amount of records. Then everybody started to jump on them kind of records. You feel me? So when I heard that Bob Sinclair World Hold On, that was the first record that I jumped on for world music.
Right.
When I saw the play in the lane, I'm like, man, nobody looking at this.
You know where I heard World Hold On at Mansion on South Beach. That's what I heard. That's what I heard it at. Continue your story. I'm sorry. I think you heard it.
We'll leave it at that. So now, when it comes to transitions, I'm going to give you a solid 9. There are a couple of points where you were off towards the end, but I'm going to give you a solid 9 on the transition. Mixing, I'd give you a solid 9.5, right? On the mixing, because I didn't see anything wrong. You did an excellent job. You did your long mixing. You came in well. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Memorability, I'm going to give you a 7. Again, because if I'm into that kind of stuff, I'm going to play that, right? Or if I'm in a mood for that, I'll play it because I like the set. But at the same time, I'm probably not going to play it when I'm outside in the sun, right? I'll play something else where I can feel the vibes, right? But it's one of those things where I will go back to and listen because it was good music, great music, right? So I'll have to do the counting up, hold up, let me do the So it comes out to a 38.5 over 50, right? Out of 50. Which is good, right? It's 38. That's only 12 points off, right? So it's not bad at all. Actually, it's pretty good, right? But again, I think you got caught up in the memorability aspect, the programming, and the pairabilities. And so now, this is exactly what I mean by everyone can be technical. See, he got high scores in his technical, in his transitions, right? But it's the soft spot, right? It's understanding how to pair music, how to program, right? How to, effectively deliver a memorable set that is not going to just cater to, yourself or what you think, but to that wide audience. Again, we're talking about a Latin groove. If it was a techno or tech house set and you're pandering to a certain group of people, underground set, that's one thing. But we don't do that really here. Of course, I will critique that, but you have to understand that if you're going to provide and deliver to a particular demographic, you have to, especially a foreign demographic, you have to be aware, right? And provide that wealth of experience and that body of knowledge, okay, that comes with the art of DJing. So 12 points off is not bad at all. It's actually very good compared to where you were before. You were at like a 10 last year, and in 1 year you've gotten better. So all you need to do is just get more exposure, right? More exposure to the different, cultures and so forth and so on. Get out there and not only visit just like the heady, the dark rooms, the tech house, the techno rooms, visit other rooms, because a lot of people, dude, Latin America, when it comes to like reggaeton and all this, like that's what people love. So I'm not saying for you to take that route, but what I'm saying though, just genuinely speaking, people from the Latin American, whatever, they love music. So you're going to get a wider range of people accepting that middle space than just the tech house, techno, and very dark stuff. Which is, I'm not saying that you went there, but if you open your mind up, right, and understand that culture, it's like, yo, dude, like, you can get to that point where there's a little bit more grooviness, a little bit more sexy, a little bit more, what I'm saying to you, than going that route that you went for so long. Then you'll see what I'm saying. But again, there was nothing wrong with the set, but I would say that for 40 minutes, if that's going to be your set, I would have wanted more, right? A little bit more bandwidth, right? A little bit more flexibility, right? A little bit more variety in terms of what you have to offer. But instead it was more of like this, and at the end you sort of wave it off with some disco stuff. Or wasn't sure how that played in. That's why I lowered your points for the programming, right? But other than that, Johnny Fontana, Half Amazing TV, we out.